Need strong leaders. We need strong leaders who aren't career politicians, and
Right.
neither one of them are.
It's so important because right now we're focused on this election for the next 4 years, which is crucial. That's of the utmost importance. But he has an eye on the future as well. He always says MAGA is bigger than him. It's him, but he's humble, more humble than people give him credit for. But MAGA does need to transcend the next 4 years because it's about saving the country long term as well. If we leave the era of President Trump and go back to the Republican politicians and leadership that got us into so many of the problems we have now, it almost undercuts the importance of the movement right now. So it's so important long term that we get some President Trump king-making down the road to help set our country on its way long after he's gone.
I sure hope so. And it just goes to show as well that he does care about democracy because he's looking toward the future of the Republican Party. Let's talk about taxes for a minute. Tax season's going to be here before you know it, and that means for those of us who owe taxes, that bill is going to get bigger and bigger if you are making monthly payments. But you know what? You don't want to let it get out of control. Tax Network USA can help you. The Democratic Party, they love taxes so much that they want to raise them for everybody. Oh, yeah, and then the IRS just recently, the union endorsed Kamala Harris, so it's a match made in heaven between the two of them. They're tremendously burdensome. It's really difficult to deal with taxes when you have to make that payment every month and then you know you've got another potentially large sum of money that you have to hand over to the federal government once we move into the next few months, especially gearing up toward April. Now, if you sign up for a new payment plan each year and you owe a lot of money and you're having a problem with it, you got back taxes, Tax Network USA, they want to help you. It's a bad idea to let your taxes go and just grow. The IRS will take matters into their own hands. They can garnish your wages. Nobody wants that. They can even pull money right out of your bank account, and that could devastate a family. Find out what you can do today to take control of your back taxes at tnusa.com/RSBN. They have an expert staff. They've been doing this for a long time. These seasoned tax attorneys know exactly how to help you. They have a proven record of settling back tax issues for people all over the country in every single state. Their negotiators can substantially reduce your debt, get you the lowest possible installment plan, and they work hard to minimize or even eliminate your penalties. That's money that you will not have to pay the IRS. If you don't want to give the government a cent more of your hard-earned money than you have to, reach out to the experts at Tax Network USA. In 14 years, that's how long they've been operating, they've been able to save their clients $1 billion. So these professionals know exactly what they're doing. They can also protect your assets from being seized. Your yearly returns as well will be watched for ongoing compliance to make sure that you're not in any trouble, not now or later, with the IRS. Call Tax Network USA at 1-800-357-1415 or visit tnusa.com/RSBN. No matter the size of your tax issues, their expertise is your advantage. Now, I don't know if you're somebody who watches the price of precious metals, but gold has been at an all-time high. And gold has historically been a great way to store value. A lot more people are buying gold this day and age. That's why you're hearing a lot of gold commercials. We've got a great group that's helping us. Have you heard about this group in RSBN?
I believe I have. Could you repeat it in case some of us have forgotten it?
I think you know who I'm talking about. Because these people at Birch Gold Group,
That's it.
the wonderful people who have been helping RSBN spread this great message of President Trump to the country, they're one of our biggest sponsors. And you know they're helping their clients as well. So it's a sponsorship that we are proud to bring to you. I know a lot of people who have been investing in gold. My mom just invested in some gold, and she's feeling pretty good about it right now because we don't know what's going to happen. The stock market, it's so volatile. If you're watching the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it swings up and it swings down radically. But something that we all need to consider is that there's nearly $1 trillion of infrastructure pandemic funds that are still yet to be spent. As that clock ticks down to November 5th, the Biden-Harris administration will likely push hard to spend a massive amount of money in their final few months. And this, of course, is a desperate last-ditch effort to get the vote. If Biden-Harris are able to push out these funds, it could lead to another surge in inflation. You don't want to be at risk. Don't leave yourself exposed. Our friends at Birch Gold want to assure you there is hope. A surge in prices can be beat. A gold IRA from Birch Gold Group is the ultimate inflation hedge for your savings. Find out how to protect your 401k or even your IRA and get a free gold kit by texting the word Trump to 989898. And when you make a purchase for a limited time, Birch Gold is giving away free Trump silver coins. These unique collectibles depict President Trump defiantly raising his fist after the attempt on his life, something that we're not going to forget anytime soon. He's going back to Butler, by the way, Butler, Pennsylvania, on October 5th. Don't miss your chance to own this one-of-a-kind piece of history preserved in a collectible silver coin. Protect your savings from Biden's spending spree and get your free Trump silver coin by texting Trump to 989898 today. That's Trump to the number 989898. And, you know, we've hit that mark of 2:23 Central Time.
Getting close. People are excited. They wait patiently, but you can tell they're chomping at the bit to see their favorite president.
How excited are you to see President Trump? This is going to be the closest you've ever been to him. Or actually, no, you said that you were able to shake his hand, right?
I did shake his hand, which was great. It doesn't matter how close you get. When you're in the room, it's just, as I mentioned earlier, it's just great to be around that movement. You know, when you're around these people, there's so much bad going on right now. But as I said, you walk away from these things feeling hopeful. Even when he talks about so many difficult issues that are plaguing the country, you just want to be in this environment. And I encourage anyone out there who can get in close proximity to a rally, even if you're outside like so many of these people here, give it a shot. I mean, if you could get here. It's historic, and you leave feeling very uplifted about the future of your country.
I'd be super excited to have said, you know, I was right there in that room with Donald J. Trump. And there's
It is historic.
And there's a good chance that if you do attend a rally, you're going to see one of our RSBN correspondents or cameramen on the ground. A good chance for you to be on your favorite network. So that's another bonus. But this group, this is a rural group. We heard from one of the speakers early on. He was a dairy farmer. There's a lot of agriculture in this area. Corn and soybeans are grown. When the corn pops up in rows all across the Midwest, agriculture is big, and President Trump has looked out for our farmers. He cares about America's farmers and ranchers as well. What's interesting is there's a lot of ranchers on the border. There's a lot of cattle production that happens right on the U.S. border. And our ranchers who own those big parcels of land are having to deal with illegal immigrants crossing the border and then going right on their property. In fact, I heard from one rancher in Arizona that there was actually a battle for the pathway through his land between the Sinaloa cartel and another cartel in the area. That's how dangerous it is. And our ranchers, they just want to work. They don't want to have this threat posed to them. There's surveillance video of people coming in one right after the other in lines, bringing in backpacks full of fentanyl. And this is a coordinated effort. It's not just what's happening in Mexico with the cartels. They're working with China. China is well aware of what's happening in that fentanyl production. And it just comes right across our open border, poisons our American youth. It's being laced into other drugs, highly addictive as well. And it's a scary situation. Now, what you'll notice on the stage there, those are the various illegal immigrants who have committed heinous crimes, all of which whose parents, the parents of the people, the victims, have never heard a word from Kamala Harris. But you know who is celebrating the lives and acknowledging the fact that this is wrong today? Our president, our hero, Donald J. Trump. And he's going to have a lot to say about immigration when he takes that stage here, hopefully in a few moments. We are hearing that he's on time, so that's just going to be a few moments away from now. But you look at those faces, these are people who don't love our country. These are people who Kamala Harris invited in. She rolled out the red carpet for them. She's done nothing to close the border. President Biden, even when he issued his executive order at the 11th hour, it didn't do anything to help us. It's too late for that. We're talking about 15 to 20 illegal immigrants already in this country. And that's a scary thought. I have a 4-year-old boy. I've got a little one, and I mean, he's everything to me. If anything ever happened to him, it would break my heart. So my heart goes out to the family members who have been directly impacted. But we're all being impacted. Wages are going to go down. This is something we all have to consider.
It impacts everybody, and even electorally speaking, if one, elections come down to one electoral vote sometimes, right? So if any of the voting process is diluted by an illegal immigrant voting, their Democrats are obviously trying to block the SAVE, the SAVE Act actually didn't pass. So it really does. It could impact every single person in this country. The balance of power is very fragile, and if one state goes one way and swings the election one way or the other, that could end up being the difference this election.
It's interesting as well. The SAVE Act didn't pass. There was a similar bill that went up in the Senate for a vote, and every single Democrat voted against it to allow illegal immigrants. The bill said illegal immigrants cannot vote in our elections, and every single Senate Democrat voted against it. So it's not just what's happening in the House when they're saying, oh, well, it's illegal for illegal immigrants to vote, so we're not going to put that language, we're not going to attach it to this legislation. That is wrong. I mean, that's basically them admitting that they're okay with it.
Right, and if they wanted to, look, if they're saying that's already illegal, then sign it and make everyone believe you're for border election integrity, right? The fact that they don't, they're basically telling you without telling you where their allegiances lie in terms of election integrity, and it's obvious why. I mean, if you look at their policies and the things they're running on, some people will never sway away from the party, that's fine, but ultimately people do really consider who they're going to vote for based on policy, and obviously they can't win on policy. I mean, this is a very unpopular administration, a very unpopular agenda, so in my opinion, it makes perfect sense why they would block such common sense measures.
You're very gratuitous. You have a lot of faith in the American people, and I like that. We need that kind of hope right now because there's so many of us who are like, what in the world is happening? How could anybody vote for this woman?
Well, what I will say is this country is so big, right? You have 330 million people in it, 240 million voting age people. So no matter what, if you have 1 million people saying anything, it's loud, it's a lot of people, but it doesn't necessarily make up a big percentage. So the way I view it, and who knows, maybe we'll wake up on November 6th and I'll be very wrong, but I just think it's a very loud minority as opposed to representative of 50% of the country supporting it. Yeah, she'll get votes. She'll get a couple million votes, tens of millions of votes potentially. But I guess I do have a lot of faith in where our country is right now in terms of the vast majority of the population, for sure.
You are a younger American, and I appreciate hearing that because it goes to show you're not watching the mainstream media, because the picture that's being painted of President Donald Trump from the mainstream media, from some of our major, I used to read the New York Times every single day. I still get the headlines of the New York Times into my inbox every single day. And boy, it is so wrong. It is so unfair. But I think there are a lot of younger people like you who aren't addicted to that news, to getting that NBC, the Fox, the ABC, the CBS that someone like me grew up with. So that's inspiring in it and of itself when it comes to younger voters. But now they're getting inundated on TikTok.
Well, it's different. At least you have a little bit more option when it comes to social media, right? You could filter out those algorithms that, it sort of, that could be a dangerous thing the other way too if you're only getting, confirmation bias. But the point being, you don't only have to rely on one spot, which is a very good thing. And I think for young people in particular, they probably would prefer not to be that into politics. President Trump has brought them in. But the flip side of that is so many young people want to start their lives. They just want a chance, right? The American dream. And when that's becoming unattainable, it sort of forces them to pay attention. And they don't really care what CNN, MSNBC, Fox, ABC says. If they know when it's time for them to buy a home or try to buy anything, it's basically unattainable for them. So again, I do have a lot of faith in people seeing that right now. And again, we'll see as time goes on whether I was right about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting, there's a lot of generational changes that have occurred that we have to keep in mind. I think about how the media has impacted a lot of people, but maybe it's not impacting the younger generation as much as we think it is, because they're losing their grip. They're definitely not as popular as they once were. Even Fox News is losing viewership. People are turning to podcasts for their number one source of information now. They're turning to platforms like X to get their news. So I do have a lot of faith in you saying that, especially when it comes to the younger vote. But then again, people are young and impressionable, and Kamala is telling women in particular that, they're coming for your rights, your women's rights. You know what I say to that is our rights, women's rights, are reinforced by our vast contributions to the American economy. 47% of women are in the American workforce. If we're ever going to get out of this debt, $36 trillion debt, we need women. No one's going to take our rights away. And I think that message just isn't getting out there.
Well, I think that's such a lazy talking point now. At one point, it was very persuasive, obviously. Women's rights was drilled into everybody's head. But President Trump has been a great leader on the abortion issue for the Republican Party. Typically, they were able to use that and exploit a certain amount of votes. And he basically neutralized that. And that's also why, in my opinion, the IVF argument's been thrust upon us, too, because I think they sort of picked up on the fact that people weren't really taking the bait on the women's rights issue anymore, abortion issue, I should say. He got rid of Roe vs. Wade. It's up to the states. He's come out and say many times he won't be instituting a national ban. So they did have to get creative. And IVF, too. He also gave the answer that basically said, I'm not against IVF. So I guess they're always going to keep trying to keep that constituency voting left. But again, President Trump's very masterful in getting around that rhetoric and the narratives and neutralizing the argument.
Yeah, he actually took it a step further with IVF and said that he would help private companies offer the funding because it is so expensive. And every American family deserves the right to grow their family, to have children. I once heard a doctor say there's no price you can put on having a child. So it looks like they're getting the podium ready, and that tells me that President Trump is close. He might actually be in the building now. You see on the screen there, it says, end the invasion of small town America. Something that's interesting about small towns like this is that in rural America, the Second Amendment comes in critically because police officers can't get to your house. Sometimes it takes 30 minutes down an old country road. If you get broken into, if there's an intruder, you have to have that gun to protect you and your family, or wild animals for that matter. Rural Americans know the importance of the Second Amendment. It's very different living than it is in city life. And President Trump recognizes that. And especially when you're looking at all those faces of criminals up there on the screen, it reminds you that, yeah, the Second Amendment is important because if you have one of these guys showing up on your property, you need to be able to defend yourself. Kamala has flip-flopped on whether or not she's for the Second Amendment. The latest is that she is, that she herself actually has a gun, and that if someone broke into her house, she would use it. But I think a lot of us are very questionable about whether that's true.
And let me just add to that. Don't let anyone convince you that the Founding Fathers put the Second Amendment in place because of hunting. Hunting's great. It's your right, but it's for, obviously, think of where the founders were coming from, right? They just left a tyrannical regime. You need to protect yourself. It's the bottom line. And that's another, again, I feel like a broken record saying that their rhetoric is falling flat, but I think we're really at
Thank you for joining us. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen from the great state of Wisconsin and from our hometown here in Prairie, Chien, I want to thank you so much for coming here. I want to thank you so much for caring. I want to thank you so much for hearing these stories about the tragedy of the crimes being committed against American citizens by criminal illegal aliens. And I'm so glad you came here to see the one man that is going to stop this scourge, this rash of crimes being committed against our citizens. You're going to see the one man who has enough strength and courage of conviction to stand up to everyone, up to and including being shot in the head for us. You're going to hear from a man that cares enough about his country and his family to stand up and risk his life for us on a daily basis. You're going to hear from the greatest president of the United States that has certainly ever been around since my lifetime. And I personally think with the challenges he faces, he is the greatest president that has ever lived. He's the greatest president that has ever served the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the one man that's going to save this country, President Donald J. Trump.
I want to just thank Derek, who is an incredible congressman, so respected in Washington. He's really respected, and I don't know if there's somebody running against him or not. I guess there probably is. Will you make sure he wins, please? Okay? Totally respected by everybody. And I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state. I love this state. I just gave you the biggest, I gave you, before I left, I gave you the biggest shipbuilding contract in the nation. And a lot of other states are angry at me. You know that, Derek. You know where it is, right? That's a big one, and they're doing a beautiful job too, but I gave you the biggest, and a lot of states aren't so happy with that. They still remember that. But I just want to I appreciate it. These are hard-working, beautiful Americans, and it's something special. But outside, we have thousands and thousands of people. Would anybody love to give up their seat? So we were going to have a thing outside someplace, in an area where we could have held the people. And I would say, what do you think, 40, 50,000 people at least out there. This went almost all the way to the airport. And it looked like when Lindbergh landed in New York. Do you remember that? He had all the way, the Broadway, the way they used to do it. And this looked like it, but thousands and thousands of people. And they all could have had a lot of fun. Instead, now they're probably leaving and walking back home because we have a nice little room that probably holds 1,500, 2,000, maybe less. And outside you have 40, 50,000 people because the administration couldn't give us the Secret Service necessary because they're guarding the Iranian president who's looking to kill Trump. Can you believe it? Now, we could add 30,000, 40. I mean, you see it. It's unusual that you see something like that. Yeah, we'll call in the National Guard. That's a very good. He's a smart guy. Stand up. I want to see what that guy. Very smart. That's a very good idea. They could have done that, come to think. But, I think it's a disgrace. I think it's a disgrace. But nonetheless, 38 days from now, we are going to win Wisconsin. We're going to defeat Kamala Harris. And we are going to make America great again. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you, fellas. That's great. Great job. They're making your jobs much tougher, right? Your jobs, oh, that's nice people looking. Oh, look at the people behind. Are they relatives of yours, Chief? I don't think so. Oh, that's nice. Wonderful. Well, you got a lot of killers in our country. You saw that yesterday. Last night, after 4 straight years of obliterating our border, I watched this show that she put on. 4 years of the most incompetent border anywhere in the world in history. Kamala Harris traveled to the scene. In fact, she stood near where I put up border wall. That was her backdrop. And in one of the most heinous crimes ever committed by any administration in American history, that's what she did by allowing these millions of people, millions and millions of people, to come through our border and make our civilization very unsafe. It's a civilization, very, very unsafe. It's a heritage. Border Czar Harris went to the border to lie in the most shameless and horrible way possible, at the very site where she released so much suffering, misery, and death. There's no greater act of disloyalty than to extinguish the sovereignty of your own nation right through your border. No matter what lies she tells, Kamala Harris can never be forgiven for her erasing our border, and she must never be allowed to become president of the United States. She must never be allowed. And Wisconsin, you can't do it. Can't do it. What she's done is a total disqualifier. What she's done, and so much death has already taken place. And we have some people up here, and a friend of mine in particular, who suffered greatly because of it. And this has already taken place by the hundreds, but it's going to take place by the tens of thousands, according to explosive data that was just released yesterday by ICE. And they've never released this before. They never talk about deaths and how many. They talk about certain things, but they've never released this kind of information. But it was so bad, never done, but under Kamala Harris, more than 13,099 convicted murderers. So these are people that have gone through the system. They're convicted. They're in jails for life. Some are getting the death sentence. But instead of that, they've crossed our border. They've been taken out by their countries and set free into the United States of America. So they're free to kill again. Oh, they'll kill. These are killers. These are killers that at a level that nobody's ever seen. Not even your great law enforcement has ever seen people like this. They got a dose of it, though, recently. They got a dose of it. Their jobs have become a lot tougher. And you remember when they say, no, these are migrants, and these migrants, they don't commit crimes like us. No, they make our criminals look like babies. These are stone-cold killers. They'll walk into your kitchen, they'll cut your throat. Kamala also let in 25,272 illegals convicted for rape, sex offenses, or sexual assault. 62,231 criminal aliens convicted of violent assault. Everything but death happened to the people they assaulted. In total, she let in 425,431 people convicted of, and these are convicted of the worst crimes. They're criminal aliens, along with an additional 222,000 illegals with pending criminal charges. Many of those charges also are murder, which will add on to your 13,000 murderers that were let into the country. That's over 647,572 migrant criminals who Kamala set loose to rape, pillage, thieve, plunder, and kill the people of the United States of America. And they're not going to change. They're only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse. And our law enforcement system, we have the greatest in the world, but our people are told not to do their jobs. You know, we don't want you to do anything. And they come from tough systems. They're going to love our system. Kamala is mentally impaired. If a Republican did what she did, If a Republican did what she did, that Republican would be impeached and removed from office, and rightfully so, for high crimes and misdemeanors. That would be high crimes and misdemeanors. Think of it. 13,099 murderers, convicted of murder, not like convicted of murder. Some of the worst murders you've ever seen. They're all in our country now, every one of them. And I've been saying this for 3 years, and the fake news has been saying, well, you don't know that. Well, now we know it. They've never released a list like this. Not just on this, they've never done it. Over the years, they've never done it. She let in, and that's not even mentioning the rapists, the gang members, the drug dealers, the child predators, and the traffickers in women, mostly women. Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. Okay? She was born that way. And if you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this. And before I knew the numbers, I was saying it for a long time. They're coming in, they're murderers. I said it so much. They're from jails. I say jails and prisons, there's a difference. One's a little stronger than the other, as you understand. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. How many times have you heard? There's also a difference there. One's a little bit stronger than the others. And they're terrorists. They're terrorists. They're terrorists at the highest level. We have some of the greatest terrorists in the world in our country right now. We have no idea where they are. We have no idea anything about them. They could be in Iowa. They could be in Idaho. They could be here. Because every border is right now running around every state. Every state is a border town. Every state is a border state. They're flying them in by the hundreds of thousands. Can you believe it? Even yesterday when she was talking about how she's going to start getting very tough. Why didn't she do this 4 years ago? And she lies so much. She lies so much. How about she lies? She said Donald Trump ripped the babies out of the crib. I ripped the babies out of a crib. No. And it was actually President Obama that built the cages. Remember when they were saying Donald Trump, and they show a picture of cages, and then I was lucky enough, somebody from Border Patrol said, no, that was in 2014. That was Obama. And then that story went away very rapidly, remember? All of a sudden, the cage story went away when it wasn't me. No, she lies. Well, look, I mean, the simplest lie is that she worked at McDonald's, and she never worked at McDonald's. She worked at McDonald's, and I didn't work there. She didn't work there. But I'm going to go to a McDonald's, I think, over the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to stand over the French fries. She said, I stood over those French fries. She never did. It turned out to be a lie. And when I mention that, they go, oh, he's fallen into a trap. Because you ever see that? Whenever I criticize, they say, all the stupid people, the anchors back there. No, they say, he fell into a trap, her trap. She can't set a mental trap. There is no. But if she says something wrong, like in the debate, she said something wrong, I question it. She said another thing wrong, I made her look bad. She said another thing. They don't want me to ever question. They said, oh, he fell into a trap. He questioned the fact on Charlottesville, which was totally debunked. On all of these stories that were totally debunked, fake stories, she mentions them. But yesterday, this is one I never heard, that I ripped the baby out of the cribs. No, that might have been Obama and other people, but it wasn't us. We had the safest border in the history of our country, and even a sign that I put down, fortunately. I put that sign down, and I love that sign. I love the graph. You know the graph? The beautiful blue, gold, and red graph. It's my favorite piece of paper, perhaps anywhere in the world. But she's so radical, she even wants to legalize fentanyl right away. Fentanyl will kill you just a little tiny, on the top of a pin, and you're dead. I have so many friends that have lost their children to fentanyl. No, we're going to do something else. We're going to get China that if they send us any fentanyl, I had this deal done with him, but But Biden never got it finished. Do you think he lies awake at night thinking about fentanyl and death? No, I had the deal done, and then we had a bad election. We got more votes than anybody that ever ran for office. Think of it, more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country. We lost by just a little bit. Just a little bit. I was told if I got 63 million votes, which is what we got in 2016, we got millions, millions, and millions more votes, more than anybody's ever gotten, more votes than any sitting president has ever gotten, and just by a little bit. No, we got to make sure there's no cheating, and we're working hard on that. We got more lawyers, we got more people watching, and I told them, if we win and when we win, we're going to prosecute people that cheat on this election. And if we can, we'll go back to the last one, too, if we're allowed. But we're going to prosecute people, so at least they know that's going to happen. And I said that because we have to have strong borders. You need two things, strong borders and fair elections. And we have neither, but we're going to do numbers too big to rig, right? Too big to rig. And, there comes a point when they can't cheat. And when you see the lines going back, like even today, lines going back for miles to get in. And this, a lovely building, I don't want to insult anybody, it's a lovely building. But if this building were 20 times larger, it wouldn't be big enough. And why should they do that to all the people that journeyed from all over your great state? When I saw these migrant crime numbers yesterday, first time they'd ever been released. They don't release numbers on murders, but they did. Somebody probably liked me. They said, boy, this is unfair. But they released them. I said, this is the real deal. This is something that's very special. There's nothing as serious as this. Nothing can be as serious as this, because this gets down to the very fabric of our society, your way of life. I mean, you're going to be looking around over your shoulder all the time, communities that were safe. This is more important in a way than inflation, which is a disaster in this country. She's destroyed our middle class, our senior citizens. This is more important than anything having to do with the economy. We'll make it better. We'll make the economy. This is something bigger in a sense, because this is the fabric of our country. She's letting in people who are going to walk into your house, break into your door, and they'll do anything they want. They'll do anything they want. These people are animals. She's released people. These people are animals. Now they'll say, oh, that's a terrible thing for him to say. No. These people are animals. These are stone cold killers. They're heartless, and they wake up the next morning and they don't even think about what they did the day before. These are real killers. These are real killers. These are the worst. These are people that have been in jail for many years. These are people that killed many people. They took them out of their jails. In Venezuela, their jails are almost empty. All over the world. This isn't just South America. The Congo, their jails are almost empty. The Congo in Africa, they took them out. They bring them into our country. Many, many countries, their jails are almost empty. Some are empty. Some are much less than that. I would do it the same thing. I would have been better than any of them. I would have had everybody out of there. Some of them still have people. They probably couldn't get buses to get them in, right? You need a lot of buses, but they're bringing them into our country at levels never seen before. And your law enforcement over here had, you just had a problem here in this beautiful place we'll talk about. But what they're doing to us, and I saw that. It's also the fact that they're taking all of our black population's jobs and our Hispanic population's jobs. You haven't seen the real job numbers yet. And I said this also 2 years ago. I said, these people that are coming across the border illegally by the millions are taking the jobs of the black population of America and the Hispanic population of America. Have you seen their job numbers recently? They won't release them, I guarantee, until after the election. But you take a look at the black population job numbers, you take a look at the Hispanic population job numbers, and the unions are going to be next. The unions are going to get hit hard by this. They come in illegally, they take everybody's jobs, and you don't know who you're hiring. Our country is being destroyed. This is the worst president and the worst vice president in history. And you got to get out and vote. Isn't this a wonderful and inspiring speech? I got people sitting in the front row, they're going, oh my God. They thought they'd be out there jumping up and down, make America great again. We're going to do that, don't worry. We haven't gotten to that part yet. Now, I'm just saying, this is a dark speech, but we only heard the numbers yesterday for the first time. You know, I took a lot of abuse because they're saying, what does he mean? How dare he say that? Everyone thinks, oh, it's such beautiful people. Everyone's so wonderful coming in. No. Stone cold killers, drug dealers, gang members. Every country in the world is taking their worst people, their criminals that are outside of jail, the gangs that hurt people, the drug dealers, which are causing such problems, that get death penalties in a lot of countries, and they don't have the problem with drugs. But they're taking their worst people, they're bringing them into our country by the tens of thousands. And yesterday, for the first time, I saw the numbers. It was reconfirmed. Some of the honest fake news, look at all the fake news back there. But, some of them turn the cameras off when I'm talking about this. No, they turn the cameras. For whatever reason, they don't want people to hear this, you know. Now, we're gonna make them honest. If we don't have an honest press, that's your third leg, by the way. You need an honest press, and we have a very dishonest press. Mostly, I mean, I know some, you know, there's a little sliver that's good. But it's, you're right side's good. He said right side. It's true, right side. Now you have some good people back there. But it's true. You have some very good people, but you have mostly horror shows. But small towns in America are terrified of migrants coming in, and even when they haven't yet arrived, they're terrified. They're terrified. And a lot of these people don't want to talk about it because they think it's so bad for the town, but they're going to have to talk because people are being killed. I spoke to people from Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. They're beside themselves, and honestly, I tell you, they're not going to take it much longer. And I guess the easiest way and the best way is on November 5th, you got to vote for Trump because we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I love that young voice. Stand up, young voice. What a beautiful person you are. Wow. Thank you very much. We love young people. One of those little things, right? They're so great. That's the future. That's who we're really fighting for when you get right there. That's who, right? We're really fighting for that voice right there. We're fighting. Because we want them to grow up in insanity. This is insanity, what's happening in our country. Who would do what they're doing? Who would do this? Who would allow 435,000 criminals, hardened criminals, 13,000, think of it, murderers, people that murdered people viciously. Some people murdered many people, and they're now in our country. They're not going to change. They're going to get worse, actually. So we're here today in Prairie, Chien. Is that a good pronunciation? You could have given me a little easier name than that, but I think we got it right.
Got it. Nailed it.
Prairie, Chien. What a beautiful name. And we have to keep it beautiful. And you have great law enforcement here, but they're going through a lot. And we're in Wisconsin, and every person here knows exactly what I'm saying. Just this month, right here in this beautiful town, Police arrested an illegal alien member of a savage Venezuelan prison gang known as Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. These are really bad ones. This vile monster was charged with holding a mother and daughter captive against their will and sexually assaulting them again and again and again. This animal crossed Kamala's wide open border, along with hundreds of thousands of others that are worse than him, He was arrested and released in the sanctuary city of Minneapolis. And by the way, I'm going to end all sanctuary cities immediately upon taking over. Right? Thank you. All of them are ending. And you know, the people of these states with big sanctuary cities, these people are, they want them out. It's only the politicians that want them. Someday we'll explain why. But he assaulted another woman in the sanctuary jurisdiction of Dane County, and he had outstanding warrants for strangulation, all before coming to this small, beautiful, idyllic Wisconsin town. A few months ago in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. There's a lot of action going on in Wisconsin with these things. You know, usually I have like Clark County. An illegal alien released by Kamala Harris was arrested for tying up and blindfolding a 12-year-old girl in the back of a van and viciously sexually assaulting her. A few weeks ago, yet another illegal alien Kamala let in was charged for sexually assaulting a woman in her home in Wausau, Wisconsin. How do you like that? Wausau. Is that right? Wausau. I like Wausau. No, but think of this. Sexually assaulting, and what he did to her was so horrific that he's now facing up to 100 years in prison. 100 years. These are towns that had these are towns and little beautiful areas of our planet that had no problems. Oh, you're going to have a lot of problems. I don't care how good your law enforcement is, you're going to have a lot of problems. They're all over the place. And I'm telling you what I said before. These towns, these little towns and cities, and by the way, the big cities too. New York, look what's happened in New York. And they went after the mayor of New York because he was saying, we can't do this, we can't do that. They just indicted him for long before he was mayor. But look at what they do. These are vicious monsters in our government that are also stupid people. They're vicious, but they're stupid, which is a very dangerous combination. Today I stand before you to make this promise. I will liberate Wisconsin from this mass migrant invasion of murderers, rapists, hoodlums, drug dealers, thugs, and vicious gang members. We are going to liberate our country. I will liberate our nation. Our nation will be free again if we win this election. And it's going to have to go fast because we're not going to be able to handle it. Our nation will be free again, and it'll be free. And I'm the only one that's going to be able to do it. Nobody else even talks about it. Nobody else even, did you ever notice the way these people, they don't want to talk about it because they think it's bad publicity for their town. It's not. It's bad publicity when people are killed all over the place. They don't want to talk about it. We will not allow these people to invade us, conquer us, and take all of our dignity and pride and everything we have stood for from the very beginning of our lives. You have dignity and pride in this town and this area and this state, and they want to take that dignity and pride. They want to invade. They want to take over your homes. They want to take over your buildings. Look at what they're doing in Colorado, Aurora, Colorado. Venezuela gangs are taking over real estate. They're real estate developers like I was, but they do it with a gun. I did it with bank financing. They do it with a gun. They will save your communities, and we will work with your law enforcement. They're going to save your communities. You got the greatest people on earth, and you got to respect them. And when you have good ones, you got to hug them and kiss them and tell them we love you, because they're great. They do so. I am endorsed by every law enforcement group, I think, or just about. I better say just about, because they'll find some one little person someplace. I don't really like Trump. Trump lied. No, these are bad people, but virtually everybody. We just had the endorsement of a group of 400,000, the largest law enforcement group, the Fraternal Order. She's got 400,000 people. It was like, they said unanimous. I don't know if it's unanimous, but all the sheriffs all over Florida, all over the country, every sheriff's group, everybody's endorsed us, or if they're not allowed to in some cases, they still state their preference. Border Patrol endorsed me, and Border Patrol is like, it's hard. How do you endorse somebody and you're with this other group, but they can't do it. They're unbelievable patriots. They love the country. They hate to stand there and watch these people pour right by them. They want to do their jobs. They're great people. How on earth did a small town in the Midwest and America come to be so famous as some of these towns? Look at what's happening with some of these towns. They're being talked about all over the world, but in a very horrible way, occupied by members of savage prison gangs from Venezuela. I mean, think of that. How does it? You're talking about areas of the Midwest where they're becoming famous because they're being occupied. And this is hundreds of little cities and little towns. They're petrified. And their law enforcement is petrified. You have a sheriff and a deputy, or you have a small group, and you'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns quickly. My sons know guns. They couldn't believe what the story they heard, the two stories they heard, actually. But I don't care, because we're doing it for you. We're going to make our I don't care. I just say we've got to do it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love that guy right in the front. He looks better than I do, and I think he's probably a little older, right? Look at him. He looks fantastic. 4 years ago, I handed Kamala Harris the most secure border in U.S. history, with the lowest illegal immigration on record. In the words of former ICE Director Tom Homan, you know Tom, President Trump was the greatest president in my lifetime by far. This country was never better off than when he was there. He was unprecedented in his success on the border, and it saved so many lives. He got it done. Likewise, the head of the National Border Patrol Council, Art Del Cuello, he's a great, incredible guy. He said of Kamala's visit to the border yesterday, I stood with President Trump when he actually went to the border, to areas that are notorious for drug smuggling and human smuggling and are very dangerous. He stood there. He spoke to the agents for a long period of time. He's been speaking to the boots on the ground for 8 years and a lot. He stood there for over an hour in 110-degree temperatures with heat. It was a hot day, I will say, but the heat was crazy. But with families of victims and illegal aliens, and he spoke to reporters. Vice President Harris went down there. She didn't speak to the agents, and as a former president of the National Border Patrol Council, great guy, Brandon Judge said, President Trump's actions secured the border. Kamala Harris's actions completely opened up the border and made it very unsafe. And I just want you to take a look at this little video. We had a video planned, and we're going to use it even though it was supposed to be for 50,000 people. But maybe they have a little television set outside that they're watching it. But you have to take a look at this, please.
I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border.
Who really is Kamala Harris? She's been telling us her entire career.
I support our sanctuary law.
The illegal immigrant deported multiple times who stands accused of killing Kate Steinle.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
Everyone also have the courage to reject that term illegal alien.
Are you aware that there's a perception? Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category as the KKK? Is that what you're asking me?
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
Will you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
How can she has applied consequences the last 3.5 years? 10 million illegal encounters, 2 million gotaways, 600% increase in sex trafficking, more terrorists coming across the border, a record number of people off the terrorist watch list, and over 250,000 Americans dead to fentanyl that comes across the border. Consequences, there ought to be consequences for her failure.
We have a secure border. The border is secure.
Sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't.
Kamala Harris. Do you trust her to stop the invasion?
She is a disaster. And she's not going to ever do anything for the border. And she didn't even want to get tough now, except her poll numbers were tanking. And by the way, we're leading in the polls. We're doing great. But you got to get out and vote. You know, this can only happen to me. I had to beat Biden. We were 21 points up after the debate. And then I said, oh, I can't believe it. I think they're going to get him out. And then we had to start all over again with this one. She had a little honeymoon period, but people are now finding out she's not a smart person. And she has no idea what the hell she's doing. And she's going to be dealing with the smartest people. President Xi, how do you think President Xi is looking? He's chopping, he's just grabbing his, oh, he's so happy. He's grabbing his people all over the place and watching the same kind of things you just watched, but even better. And we can't have this. Look, we had 4 years of incompetence. We can't have another 4 years of incompetence because we're not going to have a country anymore. She's incompetent and a bad person, but she's incompetent, grossly incompetent. She's a Marxist. You're right. She's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor. Think of it. Defund the police. She started the movement. This is a woman that we cannot allow to have in this. If she gets in, our country is finished. It's finished. Starting on her first day in office, Kamala Harris terminated every Trump policy I used to deliver the strongest and most secure border in the history of our country. We never had a, Tom Homan said it, the best border. They interview people on the border that live in hell on the border. They say it was never like Trump had it. We had a great thing. And then as soon as she came in, she ended up remain in Mexico. That means you couldn't come into our country. She terminated it. You know what it means. Remain in Mexico. It's what it means. Release and canceled. Little things like the Safe Third Agreement, canceled Title 42, halted the removal of virtually all criminal aliens, ended all of our programs that we instituted to stop child trafficking, which is at an all-time record now. She said last night that I told you, ripped babies out of the crib. I ripped babies out of the crib. She's sick, and she's a liar. And the reason I keep mentioning McDonald's, because it was so basic. She worked at McDonald's, and it was a lie. She's a liar. But Kamala, of all things, the worst thing is this. She lost 325,000 migrant children, and they're either dead, being sold into sex slavery, or just plain missing from their parents. They were stolen. 325,000. What Kamala Harris, can you imagine if that were a Republican? Can you imagine? What Kamala Harris has done to our border is a betrayal of every citizen. It's a betrayal of her oath, and it's a betrayal of the American nation. Not only must she be defeated, but in light of this news, Kamala Harris should immediately resign the vice presidency and go home to California in disgrace. She should resign. Under both border czar Harris and sleepy Joe Biden. Where is he, by the way? What the hell happened to him? Midwestern states from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin are being overwhelmed through two programs she created to deluge towns, just like yours. First, she created a program to fly in migrants from Venezuela, Haiti, and Nicaragua, dumping them into cities and towns all throughout America, right? You know that, right? Remember when she was saying, no, we're thinking, they got a little tougher about 3 months ago on the border, a little bit, but they never stopped the flights because they didn't think, but we caught them about 2 months ago, flying in hundreds of thousands of people over the border. They didn't think we'd catch them. Can you believe it? In addition, she's allowing virtually unlimited numbers of migrants to enter and be released at the press of a button through her phone app for illegal immigrants. They have a phone app so that people can come into our country. These are smart immigrants, I guess, because most people don't have any idea what the hell a phone app is. But they do. These are very intelligent immigrants. But you know who they're really meant for? The cartel people. The people that run the cartels. They can use them brilliantly. They're making billions of dollars, among the most successful people in the world. This is why I get shot at so much. I mean, if you think about it. Only a consequential president gets shot at. Okay? Remember that. In less than 4 years, she relocated almost 5% of the entire population of Haiti to the United States. And the rest are coming in rapidly as they can, as fast as they can come out. And 6% of the populations of Honduras and Nicaragua. And remember this, those governments, they send the people that want to send. And those are the people we're getting. These countries are so dangerous that the U.S. State Department has travel advisories warning Americans not to go there. Yet Kamala is resettling all of those people here, anybody that wants to come. So we have travel warnings, don't go here, don't go there, don't go to the various countries, and yet she's taken in the worst of those people, the killers, the jailbirds, all of the worst of the people, she's taken them in. And then I have to sit there and listen to her bullshit last night. And who puts it on? Fox News. And they shouldn't be allowed to put it on. It's all lies. It's all lies. Everything she said is a lie. But it all stops the moment I raise my hand and take the oath of office as your 47th President of the United States. It all stops. Thank you very much. Not far from where we are today, in a small, very beautiful town of 15,000, Whitewater. Do you know Whitewater? Right up the road a little bit. Kamala has flooded the town with an estimated 2,000 migrants from Venezuela and Nicaragua. Very tough ones, some very tough people in that group. I know because I get the info. Housing costs have now soared by 25% because the government's buying houses for them. Diseases are spreading like wildfire, all sorts of disease. The police say they cannot handle the surge in crime. The schools can't teach, and they're taking over the schools. And the town itself has plunged heavily into debt. The town's in big trouble. In Springfield, Ohio, 32,000 migrants from Haiti and other countries descended upon this idyllic town of 50,000 people. How would you like to have 50,000 people and now all of a sudden, a short time later, you have 32,000 more? They don't speak the language. They don't have the culture, whole different culture. Everything's different. But yet 50,000 people with no crime, no problems, only happiness, love. Not anymore. The mayor is a very nice man. I don't know him, but he's a very nice man. And he doesn't want to really talk about it, but he's got to talk about it. He wants to be politically correct, so rather than saying what he should be saying, which is, you're all leaving, you're not coming in, we're not going to take you, we're not going to allow this to happen to our town. Instead of that, he was on television the other day. He said, no, we're trying very hard to get along with everyone. We're looking for interpreters because nobody speaks English. And I believe he actually intends on keeping the people in the town. The town is ruined. It's destroyed. I mean, I am politically correct, but not when it's this important. Your towns, your cities, your country is being destroyed. This is bigger than inflation, which is killing you, all caused by Biden and Harris with their stupid energy policy and all of their spending on the Green New Scam. Billions and trillions on the Green New Scam, on garbage that doesn't do it, that actually brings our country back. They don't think about nuclear missiles from different countries. And by the way, they can't handle them anyway. You'll end up in World War III. But they think about global warming, which is now called climate change, because global warming doesn't work anymore, because it's actually cooling. It worked for a few seasons, but now it's not working. So climate change, a much better term, because that covers everything. Warming, cooling, rain, sun, it covers everything. Trillions and trillions of dollars they waste. You know, they want to go to 93 trillion. That's more money than every country in the planet has, and destroyed. Germany went that way for 1 year, and now they're building coal plants all over the place. You know why? Because they were getting destroyed. That's why Angela Merkel is no longer there. Already everybody is talking about leaving the different towns that we're talking about. The majority of the school cannot speak English. In Ohio, Springfield, they can't speak English. They're taking over the schools. There's nobody that can speak English. And the mayor's looking for interpreters. Isn't that wonderful? How can this happen? How can we allow it to happen? If Kamala is reelected, your town and every town, just like it all across Wisconsin and all across our country, the heartland, the coast, it doesn't matter, will be transformed into a third world hellhole. That's what's going to happen, 100%. Remember, there's a hat that's made that sells like crazy. Oh, there's a fly. Oh, I wonder where the fly came from. See, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had a fly up here. You're changing rapidly, but we can't take it any longer. We can't take it any longer. It takes centuries to build up the unique character of the United States of America. Centuries and centuries, goes on forever. Good and bad, it all comes out, and we ended up with a great country. But in 3.5 years, they've really destroyed our country. They've really destroyed it. And we can fix it, but you know what? In 4 years, it's going to be too late. Just like we've seen in London and Paris and Minneapolis and Aurora and Colorado and Springfield, Ohio. but I'll not let it happen here in Wisconsin. I'm not going to let it happen. You're not going to let it happen either. And I will not let it happen to Prairie du Chien. Not going to happen. So I just want to say we're pleased to be joined by so many great people, but one of them, as I said before, is Congressman Derek Van Orden, who lives just a short distance away, where a heinous sex assault that I mentioned before took place. It was terrible. And Derek, I want to thank you very much for being here. You're doing a great job. But they had a hell of a time, right?
Yes, sir.
And this was from an illegal that came in through Kamala. And that won't be the last one. It'll only get worse. It's going to get so bad that it won't be sustainable. We have to get these people out. We got to get them out of here, okay? Got to get them out of here fast. Now, the fake news would say, oh, he's such a mean person. I'm not mean. I'm a good person. I want to take care of. We got to take care of people. We've built this over 250 years. We got to take care of our country. Our country is being destroyed by these people. And you don't even know why. Are they stupid? Are they evil? Do they want us to be destroyed? It's so obvious that it can't work. It can't work. I mean, go and take a look at Springfield. Go and take a look. And the governor's a Republican. He's a nice man. I helped him very much. Without me, he wouldn't have been elected. But he's taken an attitude like, oh, isn't it wonderful? Look, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get these people back where they came from.